Hey guys, today we're in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 22. Chapter 22 is a bunch of laws. Remember, we're in this fifth section of the common laws of Israel, how they should act with one another and other people. And chapter 22 just goes through a bunch of laws. So let's get right into it. The first law we come into, it basically is to be kind. To be kind, to be pure. It says if you're walking along and you see a brother's cow or donkey fall in a ditch, don't run away. Don't act like you've seen it. Help it out. Find the brother. If you can't find the brother, bring it home until the brother finds it missing and say, hey, I have it. I've been keeping it for you. Verse 5 starts another one, in that there is no distinction in gender. A man should not dress like a woman, and a woman should not dress like a man. And here we see it is an abomination to the Lord. And so this whole idea of crossing genders, it's not right for a man to be like a woman. It's not right for a woman to be like a man on any occasion. And so God is saying, make sure you keep your genders and your culture correct. Verse 6 basically starts a new law of saying, be kind to animals. Be kind to animals. So if you see a mama bird with other ones, don't take away the mama. Leave the mama. You can take away the kids, right? Don't because if you take away the mama, the kids will die, and then more will die. But notice what it says at the end of verse 7. It says that it may go well with you and that you may live long. And being kind to animals brings a blessing. What's interesting about verse 7 is that most Jews believe this is what they call the least commandment. This is the least of all God's commandments. He gives them 300 and something commandments. This is the least one. But notice, even in the least commandment, there's a blessing that's attached to it, right? So adhering to God's law always brings blessing. Verse 8 talks about liability and building codes. I didn't think you would see that in the Bible, right? But basically, if you build a house, you've got to put a parapet, or what we call a railing today. You have to put a railing around the roof so nobody would fall. It's a building code, but also for liability. Don't build something that somebody could hurt themselves. Do things that are right. Verse 9 through 12 are four different examples, but it's a law of all the same thing. It's called the law of separation. The law of separation. Basically, you can't sow two kinds of seeds together. You cannot plow with an ox and a mule. You cannot wear clothes of different types of material. And you shall have tassels on your four corners. Why these weird rules? The Canaanites believed that mixture makes magic. So the Canaanites, in their grape and their vineyards, they were known for, they would take a lot of different grapes and sow them together. So they would, what we would call today, cross-pollinate, and they'd create new kinds. And they would say, this type of new grape is a magical grape. This is a grape from the gods. And so they believed if there was mixture, it was magic. So if they yoked up a donkey and an oxen, this was going to bring fertility to the land and cause a great crop. If they would wear all different types of clothing, this makes them magical and gives them powers. And so God just basically says, Israel, you can't look like the world. Don't do what everybody else is doing. So one kind of grape, one kind of vegetable. Don't cross-pollinate. Don't do all this. Don't make these new brands. Plow two oxen together, two donkeys together. Wear the same kind of clothes. And then it even says that you should have tassels on your four corners. And this is just saying that you, Israel, will look different than anybody else in the world. It would be that quick that somebody could pick out and say, oh, he's an Israelite. Oh, he's an Israelite. Oh, he's an Israelite. Because nobody else was doing it. So God was setting laws of separation, not to be like the world. Let's see, verse 13. We talk about the laws of marriage deception. So if people are engaged They get married and they go to honeymoon, right? After the marriage, there's always the honeymoon. And he comes out and says that she was not a virgin. She's lied to everybody. She's lied to me. She's not a virgin. Well, if that was truthful, she deserves to die. But if the man said that, the parents of the daughter would have to prove her virginity. How in the world would they do that back so many thousands of years ago? Well, when you got married, in a lot of cultures, there's still this practice, especially Middle Eastern, Muslim culture, some Jewish cultures still do this. You will have a special cloth that is given to you. It's very ornate, it's very beautiful, it's white, lace and embroidery, all kinds of stuff. But you would lay that down on the bed before you consummated the marriage. And so after that, the guy gets up and says she was a virgin, but she would have proof if there was blood on this cloth that was given to them. So if this man said that she was not a virgin, her parents would obtain this cloth if there was blood on this cloth. Then they would go to the city gate, which is the court system, and they would say, "Here, look," and then they would kill the man. They would not kill the man. They would charge the man. They would take the man, they would whip him, they would fine him 100 shekels of silver, and then he would have to stay married to the woman, and he was never allowed to divorce her. That's that, right? So verse 22, it starts out the penalty for adultery. If a man is found laying with a wife of another man, both of them shall die, right? If you cheat on somebody, death. Starting in verse 23, we see some rules of rape. And so there's a couple things that we have to understand in this, because you read it, you might not understand the intent of this. It starts out with a betrothed virgin, a woman who's engaged, and a man meets her in the city. This man would be her betrothed, okay? So the engaged couple, okay? Not just a man, it's the engaged, right? Meets her in the city, okay? In the city, not in the country, in the city. Houses are very close together. They're stacked upon. There's no doors. There's no windows. Anybody could really hear what's going on in the city. It's not New York City. These are very small towns, right? So if she is raped or says that she's raped in the city, but nobody hears her scream, nobody hears her yell for help, nobody does anything, well, then they're going to say that she wanted to have sex with her fiance, right? They were both in this together. There was no resistance. Well, if that happens, they shall purge the evil from their sight, and they shall both be stoned to death. But if a woman in the open country, outside of the city, in the mountains, in the fields, something where nobody was around, nobody could hear her scream, and she was raped, then the man shall be killed, but the woman will not, because she will have presumed innocence, because nobody could hear her scream. Okay, so we get some rules here. If verse 28, if a man meets a virgin who is not betrothed, okay, so this is a man and a woman who are not engaged. He just finds a woman and he seizes her and he lies with her and they're found. Then the man who lay with her shall give the father of the young woman 50 shekels of silver. He has to pay a dowry for the woman. She will become his wife. And he may not divorce her, so much like the first one. Now, there is one thing to be said. We've read through some of these rules before, okay, in Leviticus. And if you remember, the father, and by terms, the daughter, right? So she has a choice if she wants to marry the man who raped her, okay? It's not like an ugly man who can't get a wife just goes out and rapes somebody so he can get a wife. No, she still has a choice. The father still has a choice. If she gets raped, he gets the money, right? He gets a dowry for her, but she doesn't have to marry him. Now, if she's okay with it, then that's okay. They'll get married and they have to be married forever. But she does have a choice in this. And then lastly, verse 30 is about incest. A man shall not take his father's wife. That's his stepmother. Okay. A man shall not sleep with his stepmother, so that he does not uncover his father's nakedness. He stops incest. And so this is exactly what we see happens in Corinthians, in the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 5, I believe. Yeah, I think chapter 5. At the beginning, this is happening in the church. So when you deal with all these questions and all these things about kind of sex and all of these things, you'd be like, man, where is Jesus in this? Well, what's interesting about this is the level of holiness, right? The level of holiness that has to happen, right? If somebody does wrong, they're killed. Get them out. Get them away from Israel. We can see this holiness level taking us back to Leviticus, and God is holy, we are not, but also taking us forward to Jesus, who teaches about holiness and doing what is right and following him with all that we are. And so we can see the same examples kind of ring true in this. And some of these we see even as Jesus deals with some people, with the Pharisees bringing the adulterer and the adulteress. These rules are still in place even in Jesus's times. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense, and we will see you tomorrow in chapter 23. God bless.